Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Hardlines Truth and Common Sense. Um, I know I've been a terrible YouTuber. I promised you guys regular videos and life. That's all I'm gonna say. Happens to all of us, and yeah, I'm a little behind. Um, but let's get to it. Um, this episode, we are going to talk about the Constitution and constitutional rights. Yeah, seems to be a lot of gray area there that people think is gray area, but really it's pretty simple. Um, the bottom line is there is so much going on right now, and first, second, just about our entire Bill of Rights is being trampled on to some extent or another, by all sides. Really, I mean, this isn't a Republican versus Democrat, left versus right thing. This is a constitutional thing, and what has happened is we have started. Instead of we the people interpreting our constitution, we've started allowing politicians and the courts to interpret our Constitution. And in my personal belief, the founding fathers never intended that. Um, that's like, we have laws on the books now about hate speech. I mean, hate speech now in so many places is a arrestable offense. You can catch charges for hate speech. Um, and I find that absolutely absurd, um, because hate speech is still speech. And according to our First Amendment, that's free. I mean, you can say whatever you want. Now, I'm not saying that, saying the wrong things to the wrong people ain't going to get repercussions. And honestly, I think that, there's a lot of circumvention in laws that don't directly affect free speech. That's like, you know, think about it like this, and this really goes towards, I'm what I like to call technically at my age, I'm considered a millennial. I'm 37, I'll be 38 this year. But if I had to turn around and side with a side, I'd probably be a little closer to Gen X because of how I was raised. And, in my age, and especially Gen X's age and back, God bless you guys. You're the real OGs, Gen X. Um, you think about this when you were in middle school, high school, even elementary school, and some douchebag turned around and called your mom a fat hoe or whatever the big insult was back then that was fighting words. It was his constitutional God given right to call your mom whatever he called your mom. And odds are, if you had a little bit of fire and you probably decked him in the mouth. And you know what? Back then it was just, well, did you call his mom this, that, or the other? Well, yeah, but he didn't have to hit me. Well, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I bet you'll watch what you say the next time, won't you? And if it was a school thing, you usually got suspended from school or whatever. But you had to explain to your parents why you got suspended from school. Oh, Johnny turned around and called mom a fat ass pig or whatever, and so I punched him in his damn mouth. And your dad usually looked at you and went, well, I'd probably punch him in his mouth too. I mean, I'm married to your mama. And that would have been the end of it. Now you've got kids in middle school and high school that their resource officer, yeah, some good resource officers do. Think of a few school shootings that have happened that armed resource officers were on scene. Strangely enough, there's still a pretty good body count involved. Should have never been, but that's a different subject for a different time. Um, but now, you turn around, I hear about kids in middle school and high school turn around and similar altercations happening, and somebody's catching an assault charge. And I think that's stupid. I mean, it's one thing to catch an assault charge if you just like randomly beat the hell out of somebody in the street, or you're trying to, or you're trying to rob them, or do create. You're trying to you're trying to create a different set of circumstances that merits that. But that goes hand in hand with free speech. You're going to speak freely, then you're going to take your punishment freely. And sometimes that's just getting popped in the mouth. Now, I don't believe anybody needs to lose their life over free speech. I mean, going back since the dawn of man, there have been many people turned around and died because they said the wrong thing to the wrong person. And I don't believe that somebody saying something ain't a reason to kill them. Punch them in the mouth, maybe. Killing them, no. It's just somebody's loud mouth ain't worth going to prison over. Okay, that's just how I feel about it. You know, but on the other side of the coin, then you have, so as far as First Amendment goes, you know, that's been trampled on 10 ways to Sunday. You say something that the status quo doesn't like, it's taken off of social media. Some people, if you speak up enough, you get put on some kind of freaking list. I mean, I kid you not. I saw a Instagram reel the other day of a police interview with a school teacher because some kid turned around and unplugged her laptop while she was in the middle of doing something. She lost her work, and she'd sent a snap to somebody going, "I just love to kill this kid," or whatever she said. I mean, it censored out whatever she actually said. But when they told her how they found out about it, they found out from apparently an FBI tip that came from that citizen surveillance shit that happened under Daddy Bush after not Daddy Bush, but Baby Bush after 9/11. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. You know, she wasn't even mad at the kid. She was frustrated, but I mean, she wasn't like mad at the kid. And she turned around and was on Snapchat and messaged a couple of her roommates in a group text and said, "I just really love to do whatever to this kid." I mean, I don't even think she raised her voice to the kid, according to her and everybody that vouched for her. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous that because of some online, spying on American citizens, I think that's ridiculous. Um, and the thing about it is that, this didn't happen overnight. People voted for this. I mean, and it's crazy how quick people are willing to give up rights for a false sense of security. And I say false sense because it really is a false sense. Because here's where I stand, especially with the free speech thing. Let people talk. Let them run their mouths, good, bad, or indifferent. Because here's the thing about it. If somebody thinks that they could say whatever they want without repercussion, you know where that person stands. You know what to expect from them. It's that easy. It's when you turn around and you silence all of that you don't know. Take for instance, we touched on this. I touched very briefly on school school shooters that weren't stopped by the resource officer or whatever, and I'm going to touch back on that in just a minute. It used to be, before all this hate speech and all this, oh, well, you can get in trouble for what you say illegally. Usually there would be warning signs at workplace shooters too. I mean, all the old postal shootings back in the late 80s and early 90s, those were, those, if people had paid attention to what those people were saying, what was coming out of those people's mouths, a lot of that probably could have been prevented or at least stopped short. Not, oh, well, John came in and shot up the office. Oh, well, little Billy, got a hold of his uncle's, 45 or AR or 9mm and shot up the school. And, we didn't know to be looking out for it. Because you turned around and you made it illegal for them to voice what was on their mind. That's like, people want to scream about racism. Well, here's the thing about it. You call somebody the N-word or you call them some kind of racial slur, that's hate speech. And guess what? You catch a charge for that in some places. But you know what? Let them spew it. Well, that's the way I feel about it. Let them spew it, because at least you know where that person stands. At least you know that if there's a racially charged crime somewhere, those people are people of interest. Free speech ain't always about just getting to say what you want. Sometimes it's about identifying what you need to look out for. We move on to Second Amendment. Oh God, has this one been treaded on 10 ways to fucking Sunday? Understand, this is where people get it all wrong. People want to turn around, and the big thing, and it has been going on since the 60s and 70s, really, ban guns. Banning guns is the answer. Well, ask France how that worked out when that guy came in and shot up the Charlie Hebdo, or that opera house. Ask the British how that's worked for them when people shot up carnivals, festivals. Oh yeah, Chicago. Yeah, let's ask about Chicago. It's got one of the highest rates of gun crimes in the country, and some of the toughest gun laws in the country. Yeah, how's that working out for them? When these morons on Capitol Hill and in the Supreme Court want to sit there and say, oh, well, the founding fathers were talking about hunting. Oh, well, AR-15s and AK-47s and all these other weapons of war weren't around when the founding... Okay, understand something. The founding fathers worded that just right. It was all-inclusive. The only thing... one of my favorites. This got brought up during the Obama administration. It's a living document, and the Bill of Rights and all of the amendments are open to interpretation. That it was designed to change with the times. Well, yeah, that's exactly right. But here was the thing about it. The founding fathers didn't say that the right to keep and bear your Brown Bess or Kentucky rifle shall not be infringed. They said the right to keep and bear arms, because they knew weapons technology was going to change. Understand, when the Revolutionary War broke out, 1775, 1776, firearms technology had already shifted. They had gone from the matchlock smoothbore rifles, or long guns. You can't really call them rifles, because rifle implies rifling. Some of the first rifles were created during that time, which had the grooved barrels that, allowed to twist on the bullet. But they had gone from matchlock, which essentially used a piece of cord about yay long that you would light to a smolder. And when the hammer came down, that's what would ignite your powder. They had gone from that mechanism to a flintlock, which used a piece of flint that was clamped in the hammer, and when the hammer fell, it struck, just like striking a lighter. So the founding fathers were well aware that firearms technology was very rapidly changing, and it was growing, and weapons were becoming more and more advanced. That's why they did not limit it to the type of firearm or arm that the people could keep and bear, because they knew that there was that one day, firearms and weaponry would far exceed anything that they knew, and it was designed for the people and the populace to have whatever was available. Honestly, everything. One of the very first gun control laws ever implemented in the U.S. was the National Firearms Act of 1934, which was also one of the key points of establishment of the ATF. It was during the Prohibition era. And they paraded around FDR paraded that around just like liberals now parade around gun control. Because prior to 1934, you could order a World War I surplus BAR, which was a fully automatic 30-06, or the infamous Thompson submachine gun out of the Sears mail order catalog. A lot of fully automatic weapons were available through a Sears catalog or through mail order catalogs. Um, there were no such things as background checks or anything like that before that time. If you had the money, you mailed it in, and next thing you knew, you had a Thompson, a Lewis gun, a 1919, which was the Browning 30 caliber, delivered to your door. Mailman brought it. And do I believe that? Do I believe that in this day and age, access to firearms needs to be like mail order, uninhibited? No, God, no. I don't believe that, because there are people that I don't believe in background checks, which everybody goes through when you purchase a firearm from a dealer. I'm not even against private sale, because odds are, if nobody in their right mind, sure, unless you are a criminal who already illegally procured a firearm, no legal firearm owner is going to sell a firearm to somebody they know shouldn't have one. So background checks among private sales, I think, is bullshit. But as far as new gun purchases, I'm fully on board with the background check system that's already in place. You go to your local gun dealer or your local gun show or whatever. You turn around, yeah, I want that one. They sit you down. You fill out a form. They make if you have a carry permit, it means you've already been through the background checks and all that, and it's just sign, pay, and walk away. If you don't, they make a phone call to the bureau field office. They turn around, give them your name, your driver's license number, all that jazz. A few minutes later, they come back and say, oh no, this person's got this in their history, or they've got a pending felony charge, or they're otherwise prohibited, or oh yeah, they're good, go ahead. And I'm on board with that. I mean, that to me is reasonable gun control. But that's as far as I go with it. Outside of that, all this, oh, we want magazine bans, we want bans on these scary looking weapons and this and that. As far as I'm concerned, the average American should be able to order an M134 minigun through the mail. We should still be able to get Thompson submachine guns at our local hardware store. Okay? That's the way I feel about it. Because the founding fathers did not limit the type of weapon. People want to talk about, oh, they didn't know. They knew perfectly. They knew the technology was changing. Another great one is unreasonable search and seizure. Yeah, that's another one that's getting trampled on 10 ways to Sunday. Because here's the thing about it. They like to throw around probable cause. And this goes back to the infringement on your First Amendment right. You turn around and say something inflammatory or whatever, and they show up at your house, or you post a picture or something, guess what? The right thing is called probable cause. And they don't necessarily need a warrant for probable cause. They need a warrant for reasonable suspicion. And here's the thing about it, is that reasonable suspicion, now, you can get just about any judge in the world to sign off on reasonable suspicion. Oh, this person, we got a call from the ATF. They went down to the Black Friday sale at the local gun store, and they bought 20 freaking firearms. Oh, well, that's probable cause to us. That's reasonable suspicion to us for us to issue you a search warrant, go tear their house apart. And I think it's ridiculous. I mean, there should be concrete evidence that you committed some type of crime for them to be able to even get a warrant. Nowadays, judges hand out warrants for search and seizure like they're candy. This is something that I advise everybody watching this that has not sat down and read the Constitution and read the Bill of Rights. I implore you to sit down and do it, especially some of you guys on the left. And I'm not bashing you guys. I don't. I've got friends that they think ICE is the devil. They think open borders are the way, and I don't agree with them. And they know I don't agree with them. But you know what? We just agree not to talk about it because otherwise they're pretty stand-up people. I mean, people are people. Okay, that's. And I'm going to get off topic, and I'm going to kind of close with this because I still need to start my new short segment of core question of the day, and I got a good one coming for you. If you really want to know what's wrong with this country, it's not Trump. It's not the immigrants. It's not the left or the right. It's not big business, big pharma. It's not the international climate. It's not China. It's not Russia. The problem is us, the people. Because somewhere, somehow along the way, we have lost our ability to be reasonable with each other. We've lost our ability to sit down and discuss those hard topics without everybody getting all in their feels and getting hurt or upset about it, or feeling like they have to disown somebody about it. We've lost the ability to communicate with each other. We've lost the ability to say, well, I believe in X, and the other person go, well, I believe in Y. And those two people turn around and say, and have a discussion about why one believes the other. And at the end of the conversation, be able to say, okay, well, I can kind of see you here, 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 and here, but I can't get on board with that. So you know what? We're just going to agree to disagree. But you made some good points, and it's definitely something to consider. Because I'm here to tell you, people would find a lot more common ground that way. Problems get solved that way. America didn't rise to the pinnacle it was at, and I'm here to tell you, the pinnacle of America was probably the mid 1960s, right before Vietnam got hot. That was probably the pinnacle of America, and that's because most of these people had seen what what happens to people whose government silences them. They saw what happened to people whose government disarms them. They saw what happened to people that didn't have the rights that we enjoy here in the US. But somehow we have lost our ability to turn around and find any common ground. We've lost the ability to dialogue with one another in order to preserve those rights. So, that being said, I want everybody watching this take some time. You don't have to sit down and look through it all in one reading. And there's plenty of organizations online that you can reach out to that will literally mail you a copy of the Constitution free of charge. I mean, they'll just mail it out to you just because you're interested. And I'm not saying, like I said, you got to sit down and read it all in one sitting. Read a little bit per evening. Read some on your lunch break, but read it. Read it, and take it how it is written. Don't try to interpret it as you read it. Just read it. Read it like you're reading stereo instructions. And I think somewhere in there, you'll see that there's so much wrong with things going on in this country today. And it all chucks up to nobody wants to be accountable for their own actions, and nobody wants to turn around and openly discuss them with each other to try to find any common ground. Just my 2 cents worth. Have a good evening, everyone.